Hi, I'm Ed Ferris, president of Local 10, and we're here before our membership meeting. And you want to know my opinion of this incoming president, is that right?
What is Labor going to do? What do they face?
Labor is going to be under attack. You know, he's hired on all his cronies, put them in positions that they're not qualified for, and it doesn't bode well for Labor, especially when you got all these performance metrics they're trying to put on longshoremen. They're going to try to automate these sports, and it's something that we're very concerned about.
Most of labor is not activated. There's no mass labor movement as there were in the 30s and 40s. You think Trump, by his kind of provocations and agitation, is going to change labor and really revitalize it?
Well, that's one hopeful thing, that it gets so bad that we actually have no other choice but to unite and get it together, because ever since Reagan and Patco, unions have been under attack in this country, and there's been basically a brainwashing where people think unions are bad, driving away all the work in America. I grew up in Pittsburgh, and I see what happened when all the jobs left Pittsburgh and went overseas. They never came back. And this guy is basically a snake oil salesman. He's made a bunch of false promises. There's not going to be all these jobs that he claimed that he's going to be able to bring back. It's impossible.
So you don't think that he's really going to help American workers?
Absolutely not. I think he actually is going to screw American workers, and he's only going to reward his cronies and the 1%.
And what should Labor do? I mean, he doesn't really care about protests. What is Labor going to do to really defeat him with working people in this country?
Well, I think we really got to reconsider this two-party system and actually get into a party that represents the middle class and workers. The Democratic Party clearly doesn't represent us. I think the only viable candidate in the last election was Bernie Sanders, and he got screwed. And he was running on a platform that actually would help more people. And I'm hoping that it gets so bad that people start considering a democratic, socialist kind of system where more people actually are able to live comfortably instead of, in poverty and struggle.
I mean, this is a rich country. California, 130 billionaires. There's so much wealth at the top, yet working people are dying in the street. Working people are in debt. Their families, children can't go to school.
You just look at San Francisco. It's a tale of two cities, basically. You have, people killing it. They're extremely wealthy, and you got people sleeping in the streets starving. And in this country, there's absolutely no reason that we have to have those type of conditions. There's enough to go around.
North Dakota, are you concerned that there's going to be massive repression against people in this country?
Absolutely. I'm worried about losing freedom. The increase of Homeland Security and all these draconian laws against protesting and civil disobedience. I look at Standing Rock. Those people are peaceful. They're nonviolent. They're trying to oppose a pipeline that's going right through their water source on their land, and they're constantly getting injured by mercenaries that are, just trying to protect corporate interests. I'm very concerned about that.
Those mercenaries may be used against unions if they go on strike or try to fight back?
Yeah, I mean, you worry about, getting these laws that prevent people from having collective bargaining rights that actually can improve their working conditions and their lives and their families' lives. It's horrible.
So it sounds like there's a war coming.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of days. It's scary. It's very scary, but we got to stay optimistic. We got to keep paying attention, and hopefully this 4 years will go fast and we'll get somebody in there that actually represents the working people.
My name is Karan Dung, plug number 101340 with the ILWU Local 10, San Francisco, Oakland. And I've been asked right now, how do I feel about Trump being our president with the labor force and the labor unions across America. And from the information that I have gathered and seen, I think he's deplorable. He's not for the middle class, hard-working labor families. It's proof in his hotels, on the people that are organizing, trying to even be a union, and also with recently what just happened with the carriers and how he promised hard-working Americans 1,400 jobs, and they didn't even reach 500. That's just the tip of the iceberg on what this man is going to do to the labor force. And we need to be ready, we need to consolidate, and we need to fight back more so than ever. Harry Bridges said that in the future there's going to be a general strike needed, and it's coming now. This is not fear-mongering or trying to scare you in any kind of way. Policies will be implemented that we see in Michigan already that will be spread out across the nation.
Anthony Levesque.
And Trump is going to become president tomorrow. Already there are attacks on people in Standing Rock. They're setting up a real repressive regime. What's going to happen in this country? And are working people prepared, and what should they do?
That's a hard question. I mean, working people got to get together and realize who their enemy is. It's not these faces that's put on it, whether it's Trump, the police, all those things. It's an economic system that's failing all of us. No matter who's in office, we need to go after the rich. We need to go after the revenue of this earth. This is our earth. You know, they're polluting it, they're going to war, they're killing people, and at the rate they're going at now in the U.S., they're probably going to bring World War III on with the fight of national resources. You know, these bubbles that they keep creating can't last. And as the European Union, all these other countries get together, we could see World War III in our time.
And it seems like most working people are not prepared for what's coming. I mean, he's getting ready. They're bringing in people who are union busters. They're bringing in speculators, you know, people who caused 2008, and they're getting ready for a war on working class. Why aren't people prepared in this country?
I think eyes are a little open now because it is Trump and the Republican Party, but I think those same things happen under the Democratic Party. You know, a wolf in sheep clothing, as they say. So that's the one good thing about Republicans being in office, that people are way more aware of a system that doesn't work.
And we haven't seen a working class movement since the 1930s of general strikes, occupations. Are those the kind of actions that are really necessary to defeat this government and stop these attacks?
Yeah, definitely. But you got to remember, even those things came underhead and was led into what? The same system, the Democratic Party, and Franklin Roosevelt and the New Deal. So it was a lot of movement, and they brought some change about. But then as FDR leave and you put new people in office, they just change all those things away. So we need a permanent change of a Labor Party that can stand there and keep together what we have won. You know, from the Civil Rights Movement that was also drained into the Democratic Party. So we keep having some grounds as workers get mad, but it's led into the same system. So we need complete and 100% change. We need to control the wealth of this country and the world to be used for human needs. I mean, when you speak like that, then that becomes, I guess, socialist, which is a bad word.
Well, millions of people voted for Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
You think Bernie Sanders is the solution?
Exactly. But, I mean, as long as people have this idea that they vote matters, that's kind of scary in itself. You know, we need to demand change on the streets where change has came in history, which has proven to us.
And you think Trump is going to bring it?
He's going to bring a lot of wealth to a lot of people on top. And can also bring a lot of danger to us all. War is not good for no poor people. You know, not of this country, of that country, whatever. Only poor people going to die in war. And that's one thing we have to be worried about with guys like Trump.
Okay, are you optimistic that working people can solve their problems in this country and around the world?
I think they can. I think they're the only ones can solve it, but they're not getting the chance. We're letting the rich dictate how this world should be run through their politicians. Yes, we solve it every day. We are the world. We are the doctors, the scientists, the teachers, the plumbers, the truck drivers. We do solve it. We make it happen every day, but the problem is we don't control it. We have no say. And I like to leave one thing about this system, which is so simple, that we all did maybe when we was younger. The game Monopoly. We all played it when we was younger. At some point in that game, somebody gonna have all the money and own all the property. But even the problem occurs for him also is, now that he got all the money and all the property, nobody else can afford to pay him rent when they land on his property. The game of life, Monopoly, was just a simple creation of capitalism doesn't work.
Now I'm with Trent Wilson. Trent, you're past president of ILWU Local 10. What's your views on what labor is facing and what working people need to do to defend themselves?
Well, I definitely think that workers of all races, of all backgrounds, religions need to band together, especially now. Is this time is with the cabinet picks that Trump is picking, especially.
Not good for workers?
Well, I can't recall the guy's name that he picked for the Secretary of Labor. Yeah, yeah. Now he was the head of what, Wendy's or Arby's, and he wanted to replace all of his workers with robots. So that's not really a good sign for us as workers, especially in the long-shore industry, which since the 60s, the employers have been trying to replace us with robots. And that's been a continuous battle for us over the past 40 or 50 years or longer.
And do you think he's going to aim towards strong unions like the ILWU to try to do another PATCO, to bust a union and show that as an example of what you do if you fight back, if labor fights back?
I wouldn't be surprised at all if that was the case, if he tried something of that sort. I'm just looking at his cabinet picks, and all of his cabinet picks seem to be people who have positions against working people and against justice and against, not against racism and this kind of thing. They don't believe that there's climate change, and, I just don't. I'll have to see. I'm not optimistic at all.
And there are going to be a lot of protests this weekend with the Trump inauguration. Yet, do you think protests are going to stop Trump and this government?
I don't think protests will stop it by itself. I think people have to be organized enough to take some type of actions that say something. I'm not against protesting. I think protesting is good when you want to be heard, as a group. But I think that some of the challenges that we're going to be faced with a Trump presidency is going to need some type of harsher reaction to let our government know that certain things we're not going to stand for, which is a loss of health care. Okay, that is a life or death thing. That's not something we can go, oh, we might need that today, and we don't need it. You're going to need that. I think a lot of young millennials, so-called millennials, don't understand that they need this, and this is something that people in the past have fought and died for, and it seemed like the battle is coming full circle again. Actually, for my kids' generation, which is horrifying to me to think that my kids would have to fight the same fight that my grandfather fought.
Well, they want to go back to the Confederacy, some of these people. But the unions in this country are pro-corporate. They're top-down, most of them, business-oriented. You think that we have to change to transform the labor movement in this country to the unions that we had in the 1930s and 40s, where they had general strikes, where they had occupations, mass movement of working people? Do you think that's the kind of movement that's necessary to really stop Trump and his agenda?
Absolutely, I think it is. There's no way that the labor movement can continue on the path it's on now, with the smoozing and the shoulder rubbing with the employers. I don't agree with any of that. I've never seen any of that type of tactic work with the employers. When the labor movement was the most successful is when we as workers were more militant and more willing to take actions all at the same time and all together. And until we learn how to do that as a movement, as a labor movement, we'll never be successful. Even with Democrats in the office, the so-called Democrats are more friendly towards workers. I disagree myself. However, it doesn't matter who's in office. We just happen to have a person in office now that's probably going to be rougher than most. So there's even more of an urgency to organize and to stick together as workers, no matter what occupation you have.
And you think Trump is going to provoke and agitate a backlash by his provocative and kind of agitational activities?
I think he's already agitating, by his
attacking John L. Lewis and that.
Well, we haven't even gotten to that. I mean, that's just literally something that I've never seen in my life. I turned 50 years old last year. I've never seen in my life where presidential candidate or someone in Congress, or these type of activities are going on while they're trying to handle our business as for us as citizens of this country. So that's disturbing also. But his cabinet picks by themselves, if each individual person in this country looks at themselves and say, how is this going to affect me? Okay, you're going to put somebody in a cabinet position that wants to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and wants to get rid of Obamacare, when that's going to affect over 30 million people in this country. Okay, that's insane. So when you have people in office or people in control of your government that think that way, those 30 million people that are going to be affected by that might have to take some type of drastic action when it comes to their health care. Because now this society in this country is being pushed against the wall, I believe. We're at a point now where we might have to come out fighting for our lives and for our kids' lives. Me personally, my child has autism, and we depend on Medicaid. If that's taken away, that's affecting me right now. He's not even in office yet, okay? And what they're discussing in session right now will affect me right now. So immediately, soon as it takes place, as soon as it takes effect, I'm affected by that.
There doesn't seem a great urgency in the unions, though, to get organized and fight back. There have been no meetings of labor about how to defend Social Security, about how to defend their jobs. Why hasn't there been a discussion, debate, national mobilization by the unions facing this onslaught?
I couldn't answer that question. I've always been in favor of connecting with labor unions all over this country and all over the world. I believe that's the best way to have a fight back against the massive push of the employers. They have massive amounts of money. So I'm not in leadership of our labor movement right now, so I couldn't not really qualified at this point to answer that question. I can only say what I think. And what I think is that there's a little bit too much smoozing and elbow rubbing and shoulder rubbing in the labor movement. There's not enough cooperation when organizing events are being planned between different unions and organizations, and there has to be more cooperation and unity, or we're nowhere. And this is not something that would take a long time to develop. It's something that people need to decide to do. And to go back to your prior question, when you talked about Trump forcing the issue, I think that's what he's going to be forcing. Because there are already organizations that didn't talk to each other that are talking excuse me that are talking to each other already. Okay, the only good thing I hope could come out of this is a uniting of the races and a uniting of people. And to learn a lesson from it and to never become divided again. Because this is the kind of stuff that can happen once you become divided. Then people like Trump and his cabinet picks slip through the cracks, and you have no control of it because you're too busy hating your brother over here.